A woman is dead, beaten down in the humble kitchen of her own cottage. No witnesses, no clear motive, but the village already knows who did it, or so they think. The man condemned to hang swears he's innocent. The evidence is enough to convince a jury, but it's the smell of something unfinished, something off, that draws Hercule Poirot into a case far more tangled than a simple village murder. And it all begins with a newspaper clipping no one should have paid attention to. The setting is the sleepy English village of Broadhinny, charming, quiet, and thoroughly ordinary. But it's in this kind of place, Christie reminds us, that murder can feel most unsettling. Mrs. McGinty, a middle-aged cleaning woman, is found dead, struck down violently in her home. Her lodger, James Bentley, a solitary and awkward man, is arrested almost immediately. He had the opportunity, he was near the scene, and most damningly, he had no alibi. The case appears open and shut, but Poirot sees through appearances, brought in at the request of Superintendent Spence, who, despite presenting Bentley's case in court, believes he may have the wrong man. Poirot agrees to investigate further. What follows is less about the act of murder and more about the echo it creates in a village riddled with secrets. Poirot arrives in Broadhinny with his usual fastidious elegance, much to the contrast of the muddy, rural, and often inconvenient surroundings. He finds temporary lodging at the house of the pretentious but struggling Summerhays family, offering plenty of comic relief and some pointed commentary on post-war British life. But Poirot isn't here for comfort. As he walks the paths Mrs. McGinty once walked, interviews her former employers, and observes the behaviours of the villagers, something begins to take shape. Not a single lie, but an intricate puzzle of forgotten identities, shifting faces, and repressed history. And it all turns on a single clue. A newspaper article Mrs. McGinty had kept about women connected to notorious past crimes. Murderesses whose faces were never fully publicized, now possibly living under new names. This is where Christie's brilliance shines. The murder is not the mystery, identity is. It's a story about masks, reinvention, and the dark corners of respectability. The article Mrs. McGinty had kept details 4 women from past cases, each guilty of a heinous crime, each believed to have slipped into obscurity. Could one of them now be hiding in Broadhinny? Did Mrs. McGinty recognize her while cleaning? Here, Poirot's investigation becomes surgical. He narrows in on 4 women in the village who could match the profiles. Among them, Eve Carpenter, the glamorous wife of a local politician, with a past that doesn't quite add up. Maud Williams, a bitter and withdrawn young woman harboring anger. Mrs. Upward, a cultured and commanding older woman who lives with her overly devoted son. Deirdre Henderson, who seems too clean-cut, but perhaps too eager to help. Each woman is hiding something. Each one has something to lose. And Poirot knows, it's not just about who had the motive to kill Mrs. McGinty. It's about who had the desperation to keep the past buried. As Poirot applies psychological pressure, emotional layers begin to unravel. Relationships crack. Lies are exposed. Gossip becomes a weapon. And then, another murder. Mrs. Upward is found dead, poisoned in her drawing room after agreeing to meet someone Poirot encouraged her to speak with. Someone who, clearly, didn't want to be unmasked. This twist changes the stakes entirely. The second murder is far more calculated, and now the killer knows Poirot is getting close. What's masterful here is the way Christie uses misdirection. Every character seems guilty of something: financial troubles, jealousy, infidelity. But the true murderer, they've been quietly manipulating everything, weaving tension into the air like a spider spinning silk. Red herrings abound, not just to fool Poirot, but to immerse us in the village's paranoia. The more Poirot exposes, the more we feel the pressure rising. Trust erodes. And suddenly, small gestures, hesitation, a stray look, carry enormous weight. Poirot gathers the villagers in true classic fashion. And though we won't reveal the killer's name here, suffice it to say, the solution is elegant, chilling, and surprisingly emotional. The murderer isn't just protecting a secret identity. They're preserving a lie that their entire life depends on. It's a desperate act, cloaked in logic, driven by fear. And as always, Poirot's method is less about physical evidence and more about motive. What drives a person to kill, what they fear losing, and what guilt will make them do next. Mrs. McGinty's Dead isn't about brutality. It's about silence. It's about how communities cover things up, how ordinary people hide extraordinary sins, and how the past never truly stays buried. Christie uses Broadhenney like a stage, turning its quaint charm into a claustrophobic trap. The war may be over, but in the quiet corners of English villages, trauma lingers, and so do the crimes people hope time will forget. Poirot, ever the outsider, becomes the lens through which we view the hypocrisy, the fear, and ultimately, the truth. Mrs. McGinty's Dead is one of Christie's finest psychological puzzles. It demonstrates that murder is rarely about rage. It's about pressure, the secrets we carry, and the thin line between reinvention and deception.